August 22nd. And thank you for tuning in to the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening to us on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time. We appreciate your support. Throughout the show, we invite you to share your comments and questions at any time. Your engagement fuels our discussion and helps us navigate the world of transportation and logistics together. Today, we're excited to welcome Matt Silver, Chief Strategy Officer at Greenscreens.ai. With a career spanning from the early days of global trends as a flatbed broker to co-founding a successful brokerage, Matt has seen it all in logistics and freight tech space. At Greenscreens, Matt leverages his deep industry knowledge to drive dynamic pricing, help logistics service providers optimize profits, and stay ahead of the competition. His passion for blending sales and operations expertise to scale businesses and create positive culture makes him a visionary leader in the field. Matt, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Nate. Really appreciate the kind words on the intro there too. I'm going to have to slip you $20 next time I see you.
Well, I'll take it, or you can buy me a cocktail next time we belly up to a bar. So
deal.
So it's been a while. Well, I'm sorry?
I said definitely a deal with the cocktail.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it'll probably go both ways there. We'll even it out. But so it's been a while since I've seen you last. Last time I saw you, I think, was early June in Atlanta at Freightways Future Supply Chain. So
yeah, not too shockingly, near a bar, as I recall.
Absolutely. Near a bar, middle of the day, even. I think I was just getting there, waiting on a room, and grabbed some lunch and looked up, and lo and behold, Silver's bellied up to the bar. So, yeah. So how have you been? How's things going? New title here. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. Very excited for the new title, first and foremost. Appreciate you noticing that. It's been a wild ride at Greenscreens and in my total freight tech career, getting to Chief Strategy Officer. You know, I've worn almost every hat. I'm still happy to clean a toilet if that's what we need to do around here. But, you name the job, I'll tackle it. But things have been good. I've enjoyed we'll call it the small summer break away from as many trade shows as we're about to pile into for the fall schedule here. But, it's always nice to be able to spend some time at home.
I agree with you. We had a pause, and now we're about to wind up for the fall marathon. So although I don't think we're doing as many as we have done in the past, this fall we're doing a little less than usual, but it's still a marathon. And I think I'm at 16 or we're at 16 as an organization overall for the year. You guys have probably done more than that. But it's a lot. So it's a marathon. Yeah. That's the best way of putting it. So
we need the the Rock Tour tour stop t-shirts with all the locations on the back, and you check off the ones you get to personally go to.
That's actually what we're doing at Freight Movement. So the back of the Freight Movement t-shirts are every event. So that's how they're getting put out as we rerun the new Freight Movement. I don't know, you and I haven't probably talked about Freight Movement, but as we rerun the Freight Movement shirts, every event gets put on the back like a rock tour. So
that's awesome.
That was the whole idea. That just seemed like a wise move. And then as we get too many things on the back, we'll roll off the oldest one. So, but yeah, absolutely. That's you can't even remember some of the things. It's hard to believe. I don't think you were there, but Broker Carrier Summit last October. I think that's when I first met Kevin, at least face to face. First met Kevin from Green Screens, um, that it's hard to believe that's only been a year. So I mean, it feels like this last year, why it went by extremely fast. It seems like it's been ages ago. So I was just mentioning that in a post on LinkedIn the other day.
Yeah, and Broker Carrier is lining up its third show this October in a couple
Fourth.
months here, and I will be
It's
at that one.
actually the
Fourth one.
fourth.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah. So this is the
incredible.
fourth one. It's third one I've been to, but the fourth one overall. So
Wow.
the first one was 35 people in Indianapolis. So the first one was, more of a pilot, and just had a few people that got together. But the fourth one will be in Dallas. I think I got the dates in front of me, so I'll just throw that one out there. October 23rd through 25th in Dallas, Texas. Actually, it's in Fort Worth. Yeah, I mean, I've been called out several times for saying Dallas, but brokercarriersummit.com. I'll mention that a little later too. But so, Matt, you want to give us a quick? Lots of people know who you are, but we have a lot of carriers that follow us, and maybe they don't know who you are. So, you want to give us a little history on yourself and where you've come from, and how you got to where you are.
Yeah. So, like everybody else in freight, this was the grand plan from kindergarten, right? We drew it on the construction paper with crayons, right next to being a police officer or
Right.
an army vet, right? No, so
Yep.
like everybody else, right? I ended up in this industry. I got out of college. I was doing medical sales for non-prescriptive devices. Again, as one dreams to do in their future. And I had a buddy of mine. He and I used to park cars together in college to pay the bills. And he was with a little startup at the time. And every week they were posting something new about breaking this record or that record and getting funding. And none of that made sense to me because I wasn't in an industry where, VC capital existed. It wasn't a thing in the medical device space. And I was miserable. He was happy. And so I hit him up and took an interview with the founders of that company, which were Andrew and Michael Leto of Global Trans. They've since gone on to do a number of other companies, but I show up in a nice suit and a tie, and they're in board shorts and flip flops, and they toss my resume and laugh of like, well, we don't have management positions here. You can be a broker and sling freight if that interests you. So I started my freight career. I was one of the few people who knew what a pallet was and understood what a truck was and the size of it because we were moving goods at my last company. But that got me off the ground running. And Global Trans at the time had just recently taken on some VC investment. They were just building out the full truckload side. Prior to that, they were just an LTL house. We had a homegrown TMS that was a little questionable at the time. It wasn't doing as many things as other TMSs in market. So I learned by failure a lot, right? Somebody says it's too hot, don't touch it. First thing I did was touch it. And we got to know a lot of things.
I'm right there with you. You're not supposed to do that. Well, I did it twice. So yeah.
I'm banking I've got those 9 lives. I've gone through 7 or 8 of them at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we learned a lot, and honestly, it was one of the best foundations for setting up my career in freight. I got to learn the brokerage business. We worked with a really interesting, unique model where we did have a split floor, sort of the Chicago model that the other Silver family, there is another Matt Silver in this industry. If you know him, say hi for me. But the Coyote Group really started, or I'll give them credit at least because we copied a lot of their ideas with having a sales division and then a separate brokerage entity. So I grew up, I guess, to manage the brokerage side of it. So all things capacity and coverage fell under my purview. And we had an agent model there as well. So we supported at one point several hundred agents on top of a couple hundred internal sales reps. And that really, along with learning the technology side, because we built everything in-house. I didn't know it at the time, but that helped me cut my teeth for what would become my career in freight. So from there, worked with a couple other brokerages in the Phoenix market, really around the idea of brokerages that were scaling quickly and needed structure, right? They were growing. This is the good old days, growing at all expenses, but not having good foundational structure under them, not having the right technology and process inside their business to continue that growth. And then a couple of brokerages that had grown but weren't on the fast path anymore. They had kind of trickled to slow growth and wanted to reinvigorate themselves. So I was able to go in and jumpstart some of those, organize others, and then ultimately also build one of my own and got that acquired before making the jump over to the freight technology side. And I've got to say, since I stopped brokering freight, I've never slept better. That should be a commercial that I do, but it's a different life and different stressors altogether. But I've really enjoyed the freight technology space, and happy to dive into that also if you'd like.
Sure. No, I mean, so I agree with you. I was an operator before I went to freight tech, and I'd say, on the operations end of transportation, there were lots of evenings that were not so great. But I will say this: the freight tech side, the evenings that you don't sleep well are really bad.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're fewer and further between. It depends on what you're doing. In our case, or in my case, it's usually extremely risky projects that you're having to stay up for, long periods of times to get things done, and the potential for failure is high, and the risks that you're taking because of those 24-hour projects are crazy. But it's not the 2 o'clock in the morning breakdown. It's not the I blew a turbo, blah blah blah. It's so you're not getting the menial 2 o'clock, and I don't mean to say that way, but I guess the difference is significant. So
yeah, and in my past in brokering freight, you have your breakdowns, your missed deliveries, your stolen goods, all of those things, and nothing quite prepares you for the first time the FBI or DEA wants to have a conversation about freight you've been moving.
Right. No, that's actually the worst way to wake up, is in the middle of the night to a law enforcement call of any kind for any reason. So that's unfortunately had that happen a number of times as well. So absolutely the worst way to wake up.
100%.
So your transition into freight tech, that obviously that being the lead to where you are now, and definitely your time as an operator has influenced your freight technology. You wouldn't be where you are today if you wouldn't have done the hands-on brokerage experience. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into more industry items. So
yeah, and you're spot on where being somebody who's put their hands on freight transactions, I think is paramount, right? Most of the team here at Green Screens has done that. I've worked with other organizations where that seems to be a unique piece of knowledge on the technology side, but we lens it as something that's critical to our operation, something that we have to know what somebody is doing in the seat using our tool to best make the tool for them. But I got my start on the freight tech side, getting involved with Trucker Tools, just a few years before they were acquired, just a couple years ago. And I know that's like a kind of a stagnated timeline there, but I was with them for 3 years through their acquisition. I joined the company at a really interesting time where they were really putting a lot of focus. The ownership was putting a lot of focus on reinvigorating the product. Prasad Galopoli, I think right now is sort of the most recent best exit from a company in the freight tech space. We absolutely killed that exit. I'm super proud of the team, and
right.
I keep meeting new individuals who are early investors in that company because they come up and they're all smiles and want to shake my hand. And I was just a piece of many pieces of the puzzle that made that happen. But I joined them, oddly enough, just before the whole COVID thing hit freight. And at the time, the focus of the company was really just like centering the product. A lot of people on the brokerage side knew about Trucker Tools being a tracking application, similar to P44 or MacroPoint. But on the driver side, we were a free app, and we tried to build a lot of resourcing into that. And then there was the 35 other things that the company was trying to do simultaneously with what the public knew them as. So we put a lot of focus into honing in on what were we actually good at, where could we influence things appropriately, and get slapped in the face with COVID in the middle of this. I came in as the partnerships guy with the idea that I'm going to go to all the conferences and find the right partners to bring product in with or share our product to, and then conferencing stopped, right? Just immediately. I think it was like my fifth or sixth week with the company. We were landlocked. Nobody could hop on an airplane. I was probably one of the few people that was still traveling coast to coast. I lived here in Arizona and was going to our office just outside of DC almost monthly. So that was a whole nother interesting world of, the zombie apocalypse, sitting on nearly empty airplanes at nearly empty airports. But we succeeded in really focusing the company. We grew our driver count on the app almost 3x during that time. We were able to more than double the number of brokerage clients we had, but we really tipped the scales into the larger brokerages. So signing C.H. Robinson and brokerages of that scale really brought up the total number of loads that were available on the platform, the total number of trackings that were happening. You can imagine in a platform that complicated, where you're tracking a delivery through, making it easy for the driver. They could have the app, or they could use their ELD to connect to the company. We were trying to match those delivering trucks with the same broker that was brokering the freight on that truck at that moment. So try to keep those networks engaged and just reload those drivers and get them back to wherever they needed to be. And then daisy chain. The company has since made a few changes there, but all of that activity and that focus is what got us through the acquisition there to ASG. Alpine Software Group was the buyer there, and company's still around, doing great. And then I made the hop over here to Green Screens, where, not even 2 years ago now, but looking back on it, this little idea of, could we predict the cost of a freight transaction before it happens? And I was super intrigued by the company. I actually reached out to them, not looking for a job, but just letting them know I was leaving Trucker Tools at the time. And I thought what they were doing was super cool. And it was one of those, like, love to stay in touch, because I know wherever I end up, I'm going to follow this story. And a couple months later, I guess they opened up looking for somebody in partnerships. And the story I've heard, and I'm very flattered by, is they actually told the recruiter, like, go find somebody just like Matt Silver. And that recruiter was Wasim Manayar. He's a good friend now, but his whole thing was like, well, if you want somebody like him, why don't I just start with him? And legitimately, in one morning, I had reached out to Dawn, the CEO here at Green Screens, to see if she was going to be at a TIA conference that was going to be in Phoenix. As you know, I like to have cocktails with people and find out what they're up to. So I had reached out to her. She had told Wasim, go for it. Wasim had reached out to me of, hey, are you in the market? Are you interested in a new opportunity? And everything sort of lined up. And, hats off to Dawn. When we sat down for a cocktail, she's like, look, here's everything that's not going well. Here's everything we want to change. And these are all the struggles we're having as a little freight tech company that had just raised a Series A. I think at that point, just before we had technically raised a Series A, does this interest you? And ultimately, the thing that I really appreciate about Dawn is the blunt honesty and the transparency of, this is where we're at. This is where we're going to go. I can't tell you how many steps exist between here and there and all the hurdles we're going to have. But if you're interested in the challenge, we'd love to have you. And that was everything I was looking for, right? I don't like smoke and mirrors. I don't want to be sold a dream. I love getting my hands dirty and figuring things out. And most importantly, I love when there's no string connecting. Here's where we are and here's where we want to be. I like to be part of the crew that figures out, how do we get there and what do we need to do to get there. And in those short, not quite 2 years, I think when I first started talking to Don, there was like maybe 45 brokerage clients at the company. I know we've got just over 170 of them live now. We're sitting on top of 25 billion with a billion dollars of spot market transactional data. We can predict the cost of any freight full truckload transaction with single digit variance. So we're highly, highly accurate. The depths of the product today are totally unlike what we had back then.
That's a story. You've had two. That's a heck of a story to put to it. You've got a good path. So from transitioning out of the operations side, two good companies. And there's two things that I wrote down a term or just a word as you were talking. So you had two companies that you've worked with now, and I wrote down the word fans. So and the reason being is both Trucker Tools and Green Screens. When I think about those companies, they have a following of people, right? They have a following of people. They have fans. They have literally the customer base cheers them on in many cases across the board. So with both organizations, there's a lot of that. And if anyone has any questions for Matt or myself or anything related to anything freight tech or pricing, feel free to comment. So happy to answer any questions out there. So that's a big deal. There's not a lot of companies in the space. There's a lot of great technology out there, but there's not a lot of companies in the space that create that amazing culture. So not only internally to the organization, because I think there's a lot of great companies that treat their employees well, but also just have that external side. You look at Manifest. You guys had just a crew of people around your booth the entire time. You had a bar at your booth. I mean, that's so that's perfect for you because you don't have to go anywhere then. So
we try to bring the party to us, but
yeah.
I love that you picked out the word fan, because it's something that certainly in my background in this industry and my personal study, right? So the business books I read, the people I follow, the business influencers that I'm fascinated by are all kind of centered in the idea of culture, not just internal like you mentioned, but the culture of the company. What does the public see and why? How do you create that? Not only do we just have some of the, well, I guess we'll just call out, like, we are a little bit of a drinking culture company, but the idea of it and the fun we have with the sports jerseys instead of company polos, or Hawaiian shirts instead of button down shirts. We're trying to make something incredibly complicated very approachable. Not just AI, but we're using machine learning to build out individual models for each brokerage client that we have. Those are retrained and redeployed on a daily basis, influenced by the members of that company's internal staff and the freight mix that they have and what makes them run a lane unique relative to everybody else running that same lane. All of that can be incredibly complicated, right? So trying to make it more approachable for individuals like myself, right? I'm not a data scientist. I'm not an engineer. Getting to a place where somebody can come up who might be a little standoffish, right? You've got all the news of Chat GPT, and I'll call it the bastardization of AI, right? Like, everybody kind of thinks AI is super easy and it's accessible to everything. Well, it's only as good as the data set that it sits on top of, right? And it's going back to other analogies of it is like garbage in, garbage out, right? Yes, it'll pull out and you can tease the data with the right prompts, but machine learning is a little more nuanced than just traditional AI. And being able to make it approachable, to have a team that's having fun. And I think one of the things, to your point about having fans, that makes us successful and grow at the rate that we are, especially in this market, is you'd be stunned at how small our sales organization actually is, right? We've got 4 sales reps.
Right. Right.
And two of them are reasonably new with us.
Yeah. I was going to say it wasn't that long ago that it was much smaller than that. So, but yeah, absolutely. So,
yeah. And I saw the comment real quick with Chris White. Hey, buddy, hope you're doing well. Glad to see that you're on this. I absolutely love seeing people from my past pop through.
Yeah, we for whatever reason I can't bring that comment up. It didn't fell through. So thanks for commenting, Chris. So what trends in the industry are most exciting to you right now? And how do you feel that Green Screens is positioning itself to lead in those particular areas?
Yeah. So before I get to the exciting stuff, and I don't want it to
Sure.
be doom and gloom, I will preface it with fully aware we are at some of the worst of times right now, right? Like,
Right.
rate per mile sucks. No gray area with that. Now, that being said, looking at big data sets, looking at trends, looking at where are people finding success, right? So we could talk about how did we get here? How long will it take to get out of here? I think we are very much nearing the end of this. If not, there's small signals that say we're actually already on the way out of it. And I'm super sympathetic to everybody in this space because pennies aren't helping right now, right? We need to see nickels and dimes, if not quarters, start
Yeah,
moving
I
up
think
these
we
rates
need to see quarters. So
yeah. And up against interest rates that are even worse than the market conditions. I can't imagine having to buy equipment right now or take out large sums of money to buy a new warehouse or facility to put trucks and trailers in. It's really, really bad. That being said, the exciting thing that we are finding is adopters of technology, those companies that used to just spray the industry with, hey, we'll move any truck anywhere, anytime. We can broker any type of load, right? Our clients are the brokerages right now. Moving from that methodology that, probably existed pre-COVID, but certainly during COVID, right? When nobody
right.
could help but make money, right? We were seeing amazing paid rates on everything. Getting into the companies that have honed in or stayed true to the idea that they're specialists in certain types of cargo. Maybe it's an equipment type, maybe it's a region, maybe it's a commodity type even. Or maybe it's just, hey, we do contract really, really well, or we are the saving grace of the spot market, right? We will never be as cheap as your first, tender, but when you get to 5 p.m. on Friday, we're the guys that will get the job done, and we're going to pay the drivers a little higher, or tiered service approach. And I talk about that a lot because I was with an organization once where we would tell our shippers, we are not going to be your cheapest option. I promise you that. Happy to refer you to somebody who will be, but we only compete on service. And I promise you we'll be the highest point of contact you'll ever do business with, right? We answer every phone call in the second ring. You will never have to wait for an update or ask us for an update. We'll make sure you have it as soon as we know everything. And so the companies we're seeing at Green Screens that have specialized in something, they've honed in, those companies, we're actually watching quarter over quarter growth. We're watching not just their load count grow, but we're actually watching margins grow. And I know that can be a touchy situation to talk about with drivers, right? I'm a proponent of everybody needs to get theirs. I'm also fascinated by some of the ideas that, like, oh, brokers make $1,000 rips all the time on every load. It's like, man, if I could tell you how many board meetings I sat in the brokerage space where it's like, if we can make 8% margin this year, we're set, right? We're going to be a healthy company. And you talk to any other industry and you tell them, like, yeah, we can operate in single digit margins, and they laugh at you, right? There's a lot of companies that can't do that. But in our space, the brokerages we're watching, claw back some of their market share or expand from where they were, even during COVID. The one thing that's standing out is they're adopting technology. They're using technology to pull out the data that aids them in making decisions. And most importantly, they are not replacing bodies with technology. AI is not taking their job. AI is aiding them in doing a better job. And specifically, their relationship building with their driver community. They're treating drivers the same way they used to treat their shippers, right? They're offering rewards, benefits. They're rewarding loyalty. If they're the first call that driver makes when that truck is available, they're getting the good cargo to those guys first, and they're being a little selective on the shipper side too. I think there's a big push right now on editing who you're doing business with. Don't take any load from any shipper just because it's a load. Take loads from shippers that are good shippers, right? They load fast, they've got clean facilities, they're sweeping out trucks after they offload them. All those little things. And I think we're also, it's not just the brokerage, but the shipper community, I would say, is also getting a little more diligent in how they're communicating and treating the driver community, which is well needed. My father-in-law actually just retired as a career truck driver. So glad he would be blown away when I tell him some of the stories of, like, facilities that have restrooms or even Wi-Fi available to drivers, technology that tells the driver ahead of time what is available at all of their stops, what can they expect when they get there. He's not a young man, and he's blown away at what technology is offering some of the younger drivers out there.
Yeah, the more communication that we have, I mean, when it comes to shippers, identifying kind of the bad actors through the various different solutions that are out there, and there's a few of them. I think that's going to help over time. It certainly is good to be able to say, hey, this location, maybe it does have restrooms. Those restrooms aren't so great. The female side of it, for female drivers, there is no, gender specific restroom, et cetera, or there isn't a restroom. So be prepared for that. I think that has gotten significantly better over the last few years, but it's not where it needs to be. As far as, the interactions, there's a lot of discussions out there around relationships, and the people who want the good relationships, the people who want to interact and have good relationships and work together as teams are going to be the stronger companies coming out of this economy than those that are just trying to make the rips. And those are the first that will fall. Those that are trying, once the narrative switches and it becomes a carrier market, there's going to be some interesting times, and who knows when that is. So I kind of differ in some opinion on when this changes. I mean, certainly we're debatably in a state of stability, but I've been doing this a long time. So, and I think we will find out shortly on what interest rates are going to do. And then that should play into this largely. And then once we get past an election, regardless of what, I don't want to go into that discussion, but once we get past it, that should start something too. So, but I think interest rates will help a lot. Yeah. So we shall see, but the relationship side of this is everything, and it's something I think that this industry forgot about for a good portion of a decade. We got into dial for dollars, and a lot of people forgot about how to actually negotiate and work together as teams. So,
yeah. Well, and you look at going back 10 years ago, right? You started having investment money coming into our space, our industry. That brought a lot of new young bodies into the industry, and some of them as their first job or first path in their careers, and not a lot of people focused on the relationship building side of things. And you look at every industry adjacent to us that you could ever imagine, right? There's been this like falling out of everything in the middle. Hotels, restaurants, the middle ground almost doesn't exist. It's either the cheap and dirty, you get what you get and you self-serve, or you're going to pay like 9 times as much to get decent service. And then as a consumer, we always feel like we're blown away when we get good service somewhere, right? And
right.
You can talk about like the Chick-fil-A effect or the Dutch Brothers effect, and all these places that are reasonably priced but really well serviced. And people look at that as like, oh my God, they've cracked the code. It's like, no, they're just saying please and thank you an awful lot.
Yeah, they're just doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm going to take a little bit more than a minute, run a quick commercial. we're going to come back from that and chat a little bit further, and then we'll have a special guest on. Brent Boys is in Indianapolis at the National Truck Driver Championship, and about 1:45 Central Time, Brent's going to give us an update on what's going on there. All the activity. We have Wayne he has Wayne Anderson. There, Wayne and Brent were on the show a month and a half ago. So, but that'll be about the 1:45 timeline that Brent's going to jump on. But we'll run a quick commercial and we'll be right back. If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the fast-paced world of trucking and logistics, time is everything. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep transportation and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them. With our industry connections and proactive approach, we keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise. So, next question. This is one that I was kind of centering around because I talked to a lot of people. Companies have different ideas of what your product does. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about using a dynamic pricing tool in logistics? And how would you answer them? The typical, the misconceptions better than I do, but then how do you respond to those misconceptions?
Man, this could end up being like an entire TED talk around
you have about 7 minutes to answer that question.
Yeah. So it's actually just the easiest thing, right? So there's been pricing products available in our space. Interestingly enough, the ones that probably all of us have used or know about, they've been around a while, and by a while, more than 10 years, a lot of them more than 20 and 30 years. And they sell the same data set to brokers that they sell to carriers, that they sell to shippers. And all of them are index-based that look backwards and have filtration around what was the price on this market last week, last month, last year. And that's like the baseline of it. And then you can get into the nitty gritty of like, well, what's a key market area and all of these things, what's a region or zone. So the biggest thing with that is green screens. I won't say we're not looking backwards, but our focus is looking forwards, right? We learn from what has happened to predict what will happen. And then we make a prediction and we measure it and we correct the models based on, we predicted this value and then the transaction was executed at this other value, right? And the nexus between those numbers informs us on what did we do wrong. And then there's a lot of things behind the scenes, a lot of auxiliary data sets that are considered within the ML models to figure out on a broker by broker basis, what is the perfect combination or the closest to perfect combination of data sets to consider in their specific ML model that will allow us to predict their cost of transit best, right? How do we get closer to 100% accuracy? And our variance right now is single digit across all of our customers. So we're really good at it. We're getting better at it every day, every hour even, right? These things are constantly evolving. So it's exciting to see that. But the biggest just misconceptions is like, oh, it's another pricing tool. It's another version of something I used. And, it's hard because we do sell up against other product. And I think our team is very careful to never tell somebody like, yeah, we're going to replace your incumbent technology. We're not. We're additive to it, to the effect of Truck Stop sells a rates product, and Truck Stop's rate product is actually available within our UI. So if you're using Truck Stop Rate API and you're using green screens, you can come to our UI and see both answers in one pane of glass, which I think is probably the first time that has ever happened.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a fair point. So, but I know that the answer on all the various misconceptions. I was on someone wrote a post the other day about a point to point discussion on the various different pricing tools, and
I know that post.
yeah, I'm sure. And it's a particular someone who I don't ever respond to. So, but the response was, the market that you're coming out of is massive. I'm paraphrasing, and the variables that can do that can have a huge swing, which is absolutely the case. So when you look at the data sets that are coming out, sometimes I think the best answer that I like to tell people is, this stuff is complicated, and there's a lot of information here that you're not taking into account, and that you're not thinking about. So, and it's not just information coming out of the ether, and there's not some little green gremlin sitting there trying to make this all happen, but and trying to command the industry. So, that being said, as everyone continues to use these tools, that spot market swing continues to get denser and denser into one set of pricing, which does make the spot market a little more predictable on the buy side for the carriers, which is a good and potentially a bad thing for them. So, if they can't operate in that space, then that's a bad thing. If they can operate in that space and they understand their costs, then that's something that's positive for them. And if they know that they're calling on a load that is well within their margin of operation, then great. So right now, market's not so great. I don't think it's in the margin of operation for hardly anybody. So
yeah, and there's a couple things in there, and I know we got to jump here in a second, but
yeah,
making sure it's an apples to apples comparison, right? Big market to big market is where tools really shine, and you find out the nuance of tools. So if somebody does a full zip code to a full zip code with us, our output is as specific as that input. Whereas if you just say like Chicago to Dallas, what part of Chicago to what part of Dallas, right?
Right.
All of the tools in market will geolocate the center of that KMA and just run key market area to key market area. So making sure your inputs are consistent. And something interesting that I don't think we've talked about publicly, I think there's one press release out there, but Green Screens has actually just in the past few months started working with a number of driver decision tools. And it could be anywhere from 123 load board to Manifold is one of our newer partners, and True North Fleet. We've got several others coming on board where we are not selling to drivers, but we're making our data available relative to market conditions to companies that are giving it to drivers only. So we won't do this with companies that make it visible to the brokerage or the shipper community, but we want to aid drivers in having the same knowledge at their fingertips that a lot of people in the market are getting. So we're working with our partners in those segments to deliver the Green Screens market insights down at the driver level. And again, as specific as possible. And it's going to be relative to, did the load posting pop up and it just says Chicago to Dallas, or did the load posting have zip to zip? If so, powered by Green Screens, this is going to be the market insights on that. And that's available through our partners on the driver side of the community.
Yeah, I was aware that was coming. And I think that's, that way it saves you the phone call. If you're not going to like what they're going to say, don't make the phone call. Work on the next load. The other side, product wise, there's potential there. Right now it's difficult with such a compressed market, but in the long run, there's more potential there. So I'm going to press pause for a moment, and we're going to bring Brent Boys on, from the CEO of Calhoun Companies. So Brent, can you hear us?
I can. Good afternoon, Nate.
Good afternoon. How is the National Truck Driving Championships? It's Indianapolis this year. So how's things going?
Things are going great. The drivers are competing right behind me right now in the skills test, which has been going on for the better part of the day today. Yesterday, all the drivers are participated in the written test, and the skills test will continue tomorrow as well.
That looks like a pretty massive warehouse you're in.
It's pretty incredible. So I'm inside of the convention center down here in Indianapolis, and we've got a very well-run situation here.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you know how many drivers are competing?
I do not. I know
Okay.
that there's 9 different categories.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a winner in each category, and then those winners will compete for the grand champion.
Gotcha. 9 different categories, roughly one from each state. So yeah, there's 400 and some odd probably. So give or take. I mean, who knows if Hawaii's representing on all classes. So but yeah, fair enough. And Wayne is you were mentioning earlier, but when is Wayne up on his things?
Right. So Wayne will do his skills test tomorrow, and I think he's like maybe 10th from the last person to go tomorrow. So he has plenty of time to kind of sit around, think about it, and prepare.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully, I know at least he gets some time to evaluate. This is his first time there. So at least he gets to kind of get comfortable with the area and watch what other people are doing and that kind of thing. So
yep, and he's down here with his family too, so I think that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. So any interesting things going on there beyond just the skills test and all the other activity?
You know, it's pretty cool being downtown Indianapolis right now because whether you're at the hotel or at a restaurant, there's truck drivers everywhere, and it's very well represented. And I've had a lot of different conversations with drivers I've been able to meet over the last day and a half, and just a good group of people. And the city down here is doing a really good job as well.
That's great. I love the Wayne's World hat too. So is there was that a thought? Were you planning on that ahead of time? Is there intention there?
There was some intention there. We've got a few extras, so I'll send you one, okay?
Yeah, fair enough. So perfect. I'd love that. It can go. So I'm trying to figure out how to put up all the hats behind me. I'm going to get rid of these shelves because they're not handling all the swag I need them to. So, and I have so many hats. So many hats. They're starting to pile up. So, but yeah, I'd love to put the Wayne's World thing on there. So, there's got to be a Wayne's World line that goes with this thing too. I gotta think that through. So we'll come up with that.
Let me know if you come up with one. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come up with that. So let me know how he does. I love to keep in tune with you there and wish you guys all the best of luck. Definitely rooting for you, rooting for all the Minnesota guys, but definitely rooting for Wayne as well and Calhoun Truck Lines. So
I'll pass that on, and thank you for your support.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon. Thanks for checking in. I think we dropped them a little quick there, but Brent, thanks a lot. We'll catch you soon. All right, Matt. Well, we're turning the time here a little bit, but I'm going to ask a couple more questions before we start wrapping this one up. So what's next? You're the chief strategy officer, which means you get the big job of kind of figuring the path out with the leadership team on where Green Screens is going next. So how do you, and I know you can probably only say so much here, but how do you envision the company's evolution over the next few years, and in as much as you can actually say.
Yeah, great question. So the things I can say, right? We've talked about aiding the driver community. That's something near and dear to our hearts, and that's more just in the interest of evolving our space, this industry, more so than it is, when people talk about like where's the company going, they're usually centered around like, what does revenue look like? How are we becoming successful? There's more to it than just the bottom line, and part of that is helping the community at large. So we're very passionate about that. We're proud of the work that we've been doing the last couple months to get ahead there and offer some of our tooling out to the driver and carrier community. With the brokerage space where we've existed for some time, there's a lot of new tools that have come out recently. So constant evolution of our UI and the features that are available. Obviously, our core product is being excellent at predicting truck cost. We're always tweaking to find, what is the better mousetrap? How do we put the pieces together to evolve that? But we're backing it up with other useful tools via our partnership. So I talked about, Truck Stop being a great partner of ours. Offering their rates API for mutual clients right inside our UI to help everybody go to fewer websites, have less tabs open on their desktop, execute on the loads in front of them faster and with as much knowledge at their fingertips as possible. They've also just joined our Capacity on Tap network. And with that, we are not a capacity tool, but we are interested in helping the broker journey go from I've quoted the load to now I need capacity. I use any number of tools, right? So TruckStop just joined there along with Carrier Source and Chain. They're newer to market. We've had relationships with Highway, Cargo Chief, Freight Friend, Yat, a number of other companies are coming to market. All of the ones I've named are already fully integrated with us. So all a company or a brokerage that's a mutual client needs to do is tell us they want the integration turned on, and that fires right up. And we're looking at what is the next segment, right? We've done a lot of work already with quote automation and the vendors there. We've done a lot of work recently as well, and you'll see a lot of announcements in the months to come with those email automation tools. So the tools that are helping brokers read emails, respond with their quote, and then move to the booking process. So we've done a lot there. We had an announcement go out recently about our shipper beta product. So I can finally talk about that one in these things. No longer a secret, and it is a totally segmented data set. I talked a little bit about, some of the misconceptions is, hey, it's one data set like some of our peers that they're just selling to different segments of the industry. We don't do that. The data set that is brokerage only gets sold to the brokerage community. The data set that is shipper, and it's still very much being built out. We've got some beta clients in there now. That is going to be available only to shippers. It is a different buy and sell behavior than what you see in the brokerage community, right? So a lot of different insights on how they want to action the data that we can surface for them, right? They're not operating as much day to day in the spot market. Their spot market often is contract load that didn't get picked up, right? Maybe even waterfalled for 2 or 3 different contracts on the carrier side, and now it needs to go spot. So we're working hand in hand with those clients to evolve that. That's going to keep us very busy for quite some time. On the brokerage side, we've got a lot of new product that's actually poised for release at the end of this year and early Q1, really honing in on our brokers winning their at-bats, right? You're quoting all of this freight, but what is the actual outcome? And how do you know that, you've got tools that are telling you the answer? Are people adhering to the advice they're being given, right? I can tell you what to do. It doesn't mean that you're doing it or you're executing based on what the data suggests. You could be over quoting a lot of your shippers, and that's why you're not winning freight. So we're surfacing a lot of the, we'll call it the analytics type product in the very near future. So that's sort of the 1 year look from my driving seat right now.
Big year. It's a big year.
Big year, but we don't take small bites at Green Screens. The one thing I will say, and that I've really been focused on, is we are staying in our lane. We are staying as a pricing tool. You're not likely going to see us venture into all these other verticals or paths or opportunities that come to us for, do you want to do this type of business? Do you want to move over here? We're staying as the best in class pricing product anybody could possibly interact with. And that's the core focus. And, again, you'll see a lot of additive features to that mission, but the mission will stay the same.
That's beautiful. So big year coming up for Green Screens. The new role for you. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm excited about that. I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing you guys soon at several different events coming up here in the next few months as well. So yeah, I've appreciated you coming on. So I feel like we needed about 3 hours. So we probably got nowhere on all the different things that we could have talked about, but we scraped the surface. So
really appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything in closing before I wrap up and kind of do my thing?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I don't proposition everybody listening to come find us, whether it's at an event, online, greenscreens.ai. We've got a sales team that if you tell them Matt Silver said they owe you a beer, hopefully they uphold that. Try to exploit them and take them up on that. You are going to have to hear a small pitch to get that beer. But, in all seriousness, we're easy to spot, right? We wear loud, bright colors. We're always in Hawaiian shirts or something. For whatever segment of this industry you're in, please come find me, talk to me, talk to our team. I want to get to know you, understand your business. And is there a way that makes sense for us to help with our core product? Can we do something interesting that evolves this industry as a whole? If so, we definitely want to talk about that. I think, the next couple months into the next year of this industry are going to be very interesting. Capacity is going to get tight. Pricing is going to rise. So there is good news. The only way out of the bottom is up. So that's great for all of us involved. And we want to do it and help as many people along the way. That's really critical to our team.
Perfect. Where can people find you?
Find me everywhere.
Everywhere.
LinkedIn, there's two Matt Silvers. I'm the younger of the two Matt Silvers. I'll just say I've got the better beard. You can challenge me on that. Find me there, greenscreens.ai. You can always email me, silver@greenscreens.ai. Very easy to find, and legitimately every show through the rest of this year, I will probably be in attendance at.
Fair enough. Matt, appreciate you coming on. You're welcome to hang around. Otherwise, we will catch up with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nate. And thanks to the whole team over at GLCS. Really appreciate all of you guys.
Appreciate you, man. All right. We'll wrap this one up. Once again, freight movement website's up and going. We have a number of new things coming on there. Freight, FR8MVMT.com. Check it out. Another Freight Cup podcast will be every other week. We've got that cadence kind of running now. But next week, you'll see another episode pop up with that. Last week, Whitney Johnson Cowell had a nice little meetup in Chattanooga at the Frothy Monkey. She had a good crew of people, engaging conversation. Stay tuned for more little pop-ups that we have in various places with freight movement. Kind of excited about that. We have a number of discussions. We took a little bit of a pause, reorganized ourselves, and are having a number of discussions here kind of late fall, mid to late fall on next events on the larger side. GLCS will be at Trimble Insight coming up September 15th through 17th. We'll have a booth, and I doubt you're going to miss us. So if you're going, let us know. We'll be happy to meet with you. We'll be recording a few things there too as well. So please stop in, say hi. If you are coming, let us know ahead of time. We'd be happy to chat. Broker Carrier Summit, October 23rd through the 25th in Fort Worth, Texas. BrokerCarrierSummit.com. Happy to chat with you about that as well. Really excited about that event. As I said earlier, it's the 4th Broker Carrier Summit. 3rd, I'll be attending. And the first one I did not attend. That was a small event in Indianapolis, start last April 2023. So really excited to attend Broker Carrier Summit this year. Next week, we have on Amanda Schuier. Amanda is the Strategic Maintenance Director at Jetco Delivery and also the General Chairman and Treasurer for the ATA Technology and Maintenance Council. We'll be chatting all things TMC, and we'll also be talking about ATRI, the American Transportation Research Institute, which Amanda's also involved in. And another topic close to my heart, diesel technician shortages. Following Amanda, we'll be doing a GLCS panel on selecting technology. We want questions from our audience for that one prior to the panel. So we'll be reaching out via various social platforms asking for those questions ahead of time. Here's upcoming shows. Following that, we have Alex Mai, the mother trucker, good friend of mine. Looking forward to that. We're going to hack it up for a full hour and talk about everything going on in Alex's life. He just made a big move and has had a lot going on over the summer. And then we're going to do something special while we're at Trimble and do something associated with National Truck Driver Appreciation Week. So looking forward to discussing that and whatever else we can pull forward. We have a stacked lineup for the next few months. Really, it should be exciting. If you want to be a guest on Driving Forward Podcast, reach out to us at drivingforward@glcs.net. So with that, we'll wrap it all up. Looks like we had a comment slide in. I don't know what was going on with LinkedIn today. We weren't getting any of our comments in, so some of them were coming in after the fact, but looks like we got a comment, and I think that was from Mark Bugner about they're estimating the Fed's going to drop a 1/4 point. So I don't think a 1/4 point is going to be enough, and if they want to drop it a 1/4 point, they're just going to make everybody mad. So however that'll end up working, but a 1/4 point is not going to churn anything on this economy. So stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.